and welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'm going to try on the most expensive foundation I have ever bought. I actually swiped my card, closed my eyes and just did it. It was so expensive. It cost me 97 Canadian dollars. So this is the Chanel number 1. This is their Red Camellia Revitalizing Foundation. This foundation is said to be enriched with red camellia oil and moisturizing agents. The number 1, the Chanel foundation, contains 94% naturally derived ingredients. Its formula helps to protect against environmental aggressors, softens the skin, and provides all-day comfort. Visibly plumped, skin looks naturally more beautiful day after day, and the complexion takes on a youthful glow. So just a little background, my skin is oily combination, so I get really oily on my T-zone and dry in some parts, and I really have big pores on the side of my cheeks, and I have a lot of hyperpigmentation on the high points of my cheekbones. So let's try this on. So I've already moisturized my face, and my moisturizer has SPF. I use the CeraVe Moisturizer AM. And as usual, I'm going to prime my face with the e.l.f. Putty Primer. So on my right side, I'm going to use a brush, and then on my left side, I'm going to use a sponge so we can tell in terms of application which one is better. It was hard for me to choose a shade. Actually, it was hard for the person there at the store to get my shade because I have a neutral tone and most of their neutral tones are already sold out. Like, this foundation is really selling well, so I got the one closest to my shade. It's thicker than the usual Radiant foundation that I have been using. Going to use a brush and start. It smells floral for sure because maybe of the camellia, the red camellia in it. But I don't mind it. It's like a luxurious floral scent. It's not overbearing. But if you're sensitive to scent, this might not be good for you because you can really smell it. It looks very skin-like. And if you know me, I like foundation that looks very skin-like. It doesn't really hide my pores, but compared to Charlotte Tilbury, this doesn't accentuate my pores. It kind of gives you that veil of good looking skin. It wouldn't blur out your textures so much, but it doesn't accentuate it as well. It's like the way that I'm going to describe it is it's just a coat of like a veil of good skin on top of your skin. I am liking this so far. I would say the coverage will be in between light and medium. It didn't hide my sunspots over here, but overall it really evened out my skin tone. It canceled the redness on my face, but I can still see a lot of my hyperpigmentation. Let's see. And I can still see my veins over here. But looking at the camera, I look like I have really good skin. And I can see that radiance over here, and not even just on the top of my cheeks. I can see it on my forehead, I can see it on my chin. So far, so good. So this is one pump of foundation on my right side, and this is without foundation. Ooh, I'm liking it. Closer, can you see that radiance? It's so nice. So I'm going to use the sponge on my left side. Oh, it's giving me more coverage with the use of the sponge. Oh yeah, I like the sponge better because you can see I have more coverage here than here, and it's this same one pump. And I'm using my sponge. If you want to get one, just message me here on YouTube. It's the best makeup sponge for me. Not to be biased, but it is really, because it really saves you money with your foundation. Just the difference of a tool and same one pump, and it's giving me more coverage. This is with the sponge and this is with a brush. The brush is really thinning out the foundation, so on my second pump I'm going to use a sponge. See, now this looks like it has medium coverage. It's really giving me a good coverage. This is really giving me that very healthy skin look. So I'm going to use half a pump of foundation on my right side, just so I get more coverage on my right. And you know what? It's actually blurring out my pores. Like on this side, my pores looks blurred. But the smell is really strong. I like the smell though. I don't mind it. It smells like those very expensive soap that you get in the hotel. I'm gonna put a little more on my sunspots and let's see if this can cover it. A little there. So this is my full face just with the foundation. Definitely this foundation is very radiant. It's very light on the face, and when I was putting it on, it's actually giving me that cooling sensation, so it's very comfortable in the skin. I have an itch here. Hold on. With 2 pumps, it's really still not giving me that medium coverage. I would say it is almost medium but not there yet. I can still see a lot of my sunspots, a little of my veins, but it's really giving me this very healthy skin glow. I'm going to let this set for about 5 to 10 minutes before I put my cream products. So it has been around 10 minutes. Still a little tacky, but we're gonna try putting on my cream products. While I was doing my eye makeup though, every time like my hand would touch my face, it actually would make a crease. So this foundation doesn't really set fast, so you have to be careful with doing your other makeup. Like if you scratch your face, like you would ruin it. So I'm going to put my cream products. Oh yeah. My bronzer really just melted into that foundation, which is really good. I don't even have to like drag my brush, I just need to like bounce it. Now let's put a thinner product. This is the Featherweight Cream Blush in the shade Pure 59. Oh yeah, it's just really melting into that. Oh. All my cream products really blended well on top of this foundation, I have to say. So I'm going to set my T-zone with powder and then leave the rest so we can really see how radiant this foundation is throughout the day. But I really think that I need to set this with setting spray because it's still tacky and I feel like it's gonna move. Oh, I didn't even put concealer on because I think that it evened out the undertones under my eyes, like the dark tones, so I didn't even use a concealer. I also powdered the side of my face where there's really texture. Okay, but the rest of my face I'm just gonna leave as is so we can see how this performs. So I'm going to use the Skindinavia setting spray. I'm going to add a powder blush just to see how powders blend on top of this foundation. Oh yeah, it doesn't move. I put too much powder on this side. Hold on, sorry. I wasn't looking and then now my blush is really out there. Oh my god, this e.l.f. blush is very pigmented. This is the e.l.f. blush in Bright Pink Rose. Gosh, it's very pigmented. You really have to be careful. Now I'm like super pink. That's fine. I'm just gonna... It would for sure lessen throughout the day. But this is how my makeup looked like. I'm gonna go close up and show you. It didn't really highlight my pores. It blurred it out a little bit. I really like the radiance and it really looks skin-like. And since most of us are still wearing masks during this pandemic, let's try if this is actually transfer proof. I'm gonna test the one that I didn't put powder on. That's weird. I got a lot on this side, which I think is my contour. Okay, let's try just with the foundation here. Definitely not transfer proof. I think that to me is a lot. So I don't think this would be good under mask. And if you are wearing this under a mask, you should put powder on top of it. Now off to our photography test. I'll update you after 4 hours and after 8 hours on how this wears on my face. So I'm back and this is the 4th hour. I'm very impressed with this foundation, especially for my oily texture skin. First of all, I have a little wound here. With wounds, since it's a dry area, the foundation will cling onto the perimeters of the wound, but the foundation didn't cling to anything. It didn't hide it, but just it didn't cling to any dry spots. Also with my T-zone, I know that I primed my T-zone and put powder on top, which I'm sure helped, but this foundation overall controlled my oil. I know that I look more radiant than the first time I put it on, but just a tiny bit. It didn't really make my T-zone very oily, which is for a radiant foundation very rare. When it comes to coverage, it still has that almost medium but not there yet coverage. The coverage looks like what it looks like the first time I put it on. My face doesn't look like I have heavy makeup. It looks like I have a thin veil on to hide all my texture and my hyperpigmentation and all the redness on my face. So the effect on my face looks like I have very radiant, healthy skin with less texture. The only con that I'm seeing now is the foundation is quite wearing off on the side of my nose, but that's very usual for any foundation. When I first put it on, I thought it didn't blur my pores, but looking at the mirror, I think it did, especially when I put the powder on top of the foundation. And compared to the last foundation that I've tried, the Shiseido one, which is also quite expensive, this is the luxury that I was looking for. It's easy to apply. My powder and my cream just blended well on top of this foundation. Gave me that really radiant satin skin look. I have no complaints so far, but I'll update you on the 6th hour and I'll give you my final thoughts. I'm back and this is the 8th hour. I'm gonna go closer so you can see. I don't have a lot of foundation on my nose and on the side of my cheeks. But I have to say the foundation faded gracefully. I don't have any splotches. I don't have any cakiness. The coverage just thinned out a bit. And I'm also very impressed because usually at the 8th hour, I'm very oily on my T-zone. And this looks nothing. Like, I get that I'm oilier on my forehead and on the top of my nose, but the side of my cheeks are pretty much okay. They're a little glowy than the first time I applied this foundation on, but also the rest of my face just looks glowy and doesn't look like oily. I'm going to use my blotting sheet and see if there's still a lot of foundation left after I remove my oil. There's still a lot of oil, but honestly, I get really oily on my T-zone. When I blotted my face, I can still see foundation on my forehead, but I don't have a lot of foundation on my nose. Again, it doesn't look like some certain spots missing. It's just like a really graceful fade. That's how I would describe it. It looks thinner, but not really splotchy. But I also don't see a lot of foundation on the side of my nose, which is also my problem on the 4th hour. But other than that, it looks like a thinned out foundation on the 8th hour. So I think I'm ready to give my final thoughts. I'm giving this foundation a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It really hits the spot when it comes to claims. It really made my face felt really soft to the touch. It provided all day wear comfort. It really created a very radiant complexion on the skin. When it comes to anti-aging and its protective barrier function on the skin, I couldn't comment too much because this is my first time using this foundation. So I'm just going to update you on the description bar below about it. But I think I could really recommend this foundation on every skin type, may it be dry, oily, combination. I really like that it didn't cling to the dry spots of my face. It also didn't settle on my pores. It helped in blurring out my pores, and it really gave me that veil of good complexion. And on the 8-hour, it looks radiant than oily. For people with sensitive skin though, I think that you should get a tester first and do a patch test of this foundation, because this really have a strong smell when you first applied it on. It dissipates after a while. This foundation claims to have 97% naturally derived ingredients, so I want to say that it's safe for sensitive skin, but because of the scent, I can't really make sure. I don't have sensitive skin, and throughout the day when I was wearing this, I didn't feel anything. I was very comfortable on, but to be on the safe side, just always patch test. When it comes to coverage, if you want to cover a darker pigmentation, or if you have really dark under eyes and you have some dark spots on your face, you really have to use concealer with this foundation, as this can only go up to a medium coverage. But I don't mind that. I really like the natural skin-like effect of this foundation. When it comes to wearability, I think on the 4th or 5th hour, my only concern was my foundation on the side of my nose is wearing off, but the rest of my face were okay. So I think up to 4 or 5 hours, you're still okay with wearability. But on the 5th hour, I think the foundation started to thin out. I think 4 to 5 hours is still a good wear. On the 8-hour, I wouldn't say that I look like I don't have any foundation on. It really thinned out gracefully, so you would still look okay and radiant, and you would still have that veil of good looking skin. It's just not a lot of coverage anymore. This foundation is also very moisturizing. It doesn't dry down as like a very matte foundation, so it actually feels like you have moisturizer on. So if you don't want this to transfer or move, you just really have to make sure that you put powder on top of this foundation and that you set it with setting spray. I actually rate this as 4.5 out of 5. The 0.5 is because it's quite expensive, $97, but it does what it claims, so it's worth it. But 97 Canadian dollars is still 97 Canadian dollars. It's still a pricey foundation, but budget permitting, again, I would highly recommend this foundation. So that's my review of the Chanel No. 1 Revitalizing Red Camellia Foundation. So if you guys have any questions that I didn't cover on this review, just kindly leave a comment down below. I would love to answer all of your questions. In my next video, I'll be ranking all foundations that I've used so far, especially the new ones. So the Makeup Forever HD Skin Foundation, Quick Stars BBB Cream Foundation, NARS Light Reflecting Foundation, Charlotte Tilbury, the Shiseido, the Dior. I'm going to rank them all, so I'm going to let you know what my favorite foundations are and what didn't make the cut. In the meantime, don't forget to watch my foundation playlist where I review high-end and drugstore foundations. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll always be updated once a new video is out. Thank you so much, guys, again for watching. I'll see you on my next one. Paalam!